Today we talk to John Graham Harper, a professional athlete and founder, on his device, Lumaflex, and whether or not you should be using red light therapy.
Yeah, it was a wild conversation. Had a fun time. He shared some advice at the very end that was super interesting about failure. So stick around for that. And then at the very end, in lab results, Chloe and I decide whether or not we would use Lumaflex ourselves or buy it ourselves. And what we decided for this one was
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Decision Lab podcast, and today we're talking to John Graham Harper, the founder of Lumaflex. Welcome, John. We're so grateful and excited to have you today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to share. You guys obviously have a really professional setup here at the Discussion Lab, and to get access to that audience is very well appreciated. Thanks so much.
heck yeah. We're pumped to have you here. We like to get to know our founders and our guests a little bit before we dive into all the business stuff. So the origin story section is what we're hitting on here. So tell us a little bit about your life story. Like, how did you become the person you are today?
How did it all start? Yeah, that's fun. It's nice to have these moments where you sort of reminisce and kind of like track back again, because it kind of, it's that data, right? It gives you sort of the confidence to keep going forward. You're like, wow, I did that. Wow, I really was an idiot before. I'm not so bad now, you know? But if I were to go all the way back to the beginning, I think it started with I was like the kid that was picked last at school for the school team. You know, that skinny redhead, freckles, not much going for me, very, very low in confidence, kind of like, you know, a bit of a downer. And I found confidence in the gym and building muscle in the gym, because you have that little teddy bear inside you, and you put the armor in the gym, you put the muscle on. It's like the armor that protects the teddy bear. So I felt very confident and validated, you know, in the gym. I was like, wow, this is going to be my thing. And I guess I wanted to go a step further and give that confidence out to other people and make that my career. Like, wow, I had such great feedback from discovering fitness, getting healthy, building muscle. I want to now make this my thing that I give to other people. And so that led into like quite a long duration of being a trainer. I then wanted to scale and create more impact. So I started opening gyms, and I was bringing partners in. But I think I'm still definitely learning. Like every single day I'm learning new things. And I think where I've come from, looking back at where I was kind of like that yes man that was always like, yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it. Sort of a lot of motivation, but not so much discipline. I wasn't really, you know, looking at the finer details of things. I always had like a problem with numbers. So when it came to business is more about discipline. It's about, you know, not necessarily, you know, putting your head up in the clouds. It's more about, you know, making sure that you're doing very, very smart, calculated, data-driven decisions. But I wasn't very good at that. So like a lot of the earlier fitness businesses I did, I think, you know, they were absolute failures. And I guess that's obviously how we learn, you know, again, you know, puts you in the place of where you are now. But I opened up, you know, I would bring partners in together, and I didn't quite know how partnerships work in businesses. And sometimes the partnerships wouldn't really work. You know, there were personal differences, and that would lead to like a lot of anger, a lot of fighting, a lot of, you know, and then the business failing. And this kept kind of happening again and again. It took a while to learn some of those lessons. But throughout that time in fitness, I wanted to be the guy that sort of practiced what he preached. I didn't want to be a trainer that was just telling people to be healthy. I wanted to be healthy. Like I needed to look the part. And I thought it was something it's good for the business, and it's good for your personal brand. I think it was something my older brother really was good at educating me at a young age. So I competed a lot in competitive sports, and I was in, rugby was kind of my thing. I had a team. We would go on tours. I remember actually going to the Bangkok Tens. Bangkok Tens is like one of the largest rugby events in Asia, and I remember that tour I think was my first major injury, where I went in for a tackle just wrong, and then I popped my shoulder, and had to go to hospital. It was like out. There was like it was all bruised and everything. I had to do a bunch of rehab. Took quite a few months to bring it back. And then playing rugby again, the other shoulder got injured, and then my left knee got very injured. And I think it was I hyperextended, and it wasn't. It was just something, and looking back at it now, where you would think like any normal person would look, on a rehab program, maybe consult someone that was, good at dealing with injuries. But I was just like, no, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And it was, again, I think it was just that attitude that I had where I thought I was like invincible, that,
Yeah.
I'll take care of it. And that it just, injuries would keep getting worse and worse. And I eventually had to leave rugby, and then I went into amateur boxing. And boxing,
Wow.
I think how I got into amateur boxing, I remember a friend of mine was fighting. And I remember like going to visit him and hang out and sort of have like some boys time. And I think I just was like, I was just being silly and letting my ego take over. And I was like, oh, I'm going to fight. I'm going to sign me up for this same event. And I remember the coach was Michelle Aboro. She's this like Dutch world champion kickboxer. And I remember she was
Whoa.
like, yeah, sure, you can fight. You can fight. I'll get you, I'll be your, like, she was sort of the coach. I was under her gym. And the first event, I remember I won the fight, and I was like, that's it. Heavyweight champion, let's go. This is this is it. This is gonna be
Hmm.
me. Some people play cards. Some people golf. Other people, trade stocks. I'm gonna be a heavyweight boxer. So it's silly, right? But well, it's not silly. I just think it was more not. It wasn't a very calculated kind of thinking. It
How
was just.
how old were you at this time?
I want to say I'm 40 now, so I think I was around 23. Yeah, this was around 23,
Got it.
20,
Nice.
23, 24. Yeah. And yeah, I remember fighting a couple of times. I remember the last time I fought, I lost. And it was just difficult. It's difficult because I was a heavyweight. It was difficult to get a lot of fights. But I remember that during that time fighting, and I would get these headaches, and the headaches would always be in the back of my head. And it was like someone was pushing like their finger into my brain. And I didn't really think much of it. I just thought it was something that was like, maybe I'm not, my supplementation's off, or maybe I need to drink more water, or this is just part of the package. If you're an athlete and you're boxing, this is just how it is. And I didn't really get too worried or serious about it. But I remember my wife, who at that time was my girlfriend, she took me to hospital to have a checkup, and I did a scan, and they found a tumor in my head. And
Jeez.
I remember the doctor was like, have you been in a car accident? It's like, no, no, I haven't been. He's like, did you have like a serious fall when you were a kid? Like, can you tell us about your early childhood where, and I was like, no, I think, just a few bumps, and, as a normal kid would. And then I said, but I'm boxing now. And he was like, yeah, don't do that. That's probably what's causing the tumor, because you're getting these impacts to your brain, and it's created a tumor now. And I remember he told me, he said, you have 11 months to plan this surgery, or the tumor is going to grow in a way to where the microsurgery will be different. So it'll be a more invasive surgery. We'll have to really
Oh
go into
man.
your head. And they said, yeah, and the way it's growing, this could now potentially kill you because it grows into your brain and you die. So I was like, all right, got to get myself together. No more impact sports. Let's get the surgery done. And I remember that the tumor was like the size of my thumb, and the doctor, it was about that big. And I remember the doctor, I was like, can I keep the tumor? I want to show my dad. And he's like, no, no, we need to study this tumor. I remember he's like, no, we need to study it. And I was like, all right, you can have it. But the that was a bit of a wake up call for me, to sort of not just change my behaviors as in my life as an athlete and in business, but also just just to be more mindful of myself, right? Mindful of how I'm treating myself and the effect I'm having on the world. And I can clearly see after that time that I switched to a more calm, sort of calculated way of behaving. And right now, like being in Asia and traveling around in Asia, going to Vietnam, pursue partnerships. Hong Kong is about 2 hours away from the center of Hong Kong. There's very good relationships there with retailers I'm looking to do. But in this area, I'm getting very much into Tai Chi and meditation and that. And it's something very, it's nice to reflect back, because I would never go near that back in in that time. I would never go near to an approach of being more centered and calculated, more calm, right? I was more about like kicking the door down, and just throwing a bunch of energy into something, and thinking the more energy that I put into it, the more it'll work. whereas now I'm like, it's more about working smart rather than working. But yeah, my wife, bless her heart, she was the one that introduced me to red light therapy, and she bought me this lamp. It was like a bedside lamp. It was like a lamp that you would have on your bed, like with a long stand and a weighted base, sort of like in a beach umbrella kind of thing. I would wiggle it around the house. And she said, she was like, aim it at the area that's hurting and do 20 minutes before bed. It was always a before protocol she was pushing me to do. And I was like, okay, this is, some special sort of thing. I'll do it just to kind of like keep her happy. And where I saw that like aha moment was my left knee, because my left knee, that injury was the one that was the most debilitating, because you go in to do squats or like a clean and a jerk in the gym, or you're running for boxing. It was always in so much pain. Like I remember sitting in a seated position at a 45-degree angle. It would like the pain was very, very, it was tough to deal with. I would have to stand up and sort of stretch the leg. And I remember carrying around with me this like deep heat cream, like you buy it at Walgreens. It's like this stuff that, you can put on your neck. It sort of helps to, draw blood to an area. And I remember rubbing my knee all the time. Like I had this deep heat and I would like rub my knee, and I'd be in like a cab and I would have to sit down on the cab or in a plane, and I would just be rubbing the knee, and the smell, I remember the smell was just always like, I had that deep heat smell with me all the time. Um, but
Jeez.
I remember for so many years it hurting, that that was sort of where I would put this lamp. And after about a week, I didn't have the pain, and even to this day, I do not have any pain on my left knee. No, I've never had to like do targeted treatment of any kind on my left knee.
Wow.
It's that lamp. I would put my leg up, and I would put the lamp like on my leg, and the bulb of the lamp, it was this red bulb, like really dark, very rich color red, and it would heat up very hot. And I thought that the heat, but because of the deep heat, I thought the heat was the treatment. So I would always like move my leg up to the lamp, and I would be like, ouch, and then I'd move it away, and then I'd move it back up, and I'd be like, okay, and move it. And I would play this like dance game with my knee to try to get the therapy from the lamp, but then it would get unbearable and I'd have to move it away. And later, obviously, I found out, it's light therapy, and so that's what sort of triggered the interest. Because after a week of not pain, the second week, I stopped doing these 20-minute treatments on my left knee. I remember the not really quite understanding it, because I think I've been beaten up a lot more than the injuries that I've mentioned, but I've always been a bit slow-headed on things. For China, they have a zodiac, and then the West has a zodiac. In China, I'm a niu, I'm a cow, or ox. They're known for like being like real workers. They just work. They grind, right? And that's kind of like I've always sort of identified myself as a niu, as just someone that just sort of plugs away.
I know somebody like that.
And then, but I remember like reading up on red light therapy and not quite understanding it. And then I started to meet scientists in the community. And a scientist who now is the educational director for Lumaflex is the guy that I believe packaged the information for me personally the best, because everything that I've learned and everything that's helped with the product development, with the company, with our vision and mission, and how I inspire the team and how we've grown globally, has always been kind of based on how he introduced red light therapy to me, and the way that he has a way of making it simple so that someone like me that's thick-headed can understand it, and then most importantly be able to tell it to a friend, family member, and to keep the information going down the line, right, and sharing it. And that was he to me for me right now, the stage I am in my life. He's like one of my G's, my gurus. He's like a mentor. He's someone that I try to have a call with every day, not every week, to not just talk about light therapy, but also talk about like to get that motivation juice, that passion juice for what are we doing? We're we're trying to change people's lives with light therapy. Um, and it's difficult, right? Because there's manufacturing, there's certifications, there's like testing that you need to do, there's relationships, there's sales, there's building the team, there's hiring, there's firing, it goes on and on and on. Like this week we had to let somebody go, and it's always a bit tough when you let someone go. You're kind of like, put yourself in a situation where you have to go, but then also we're bringing somebody new on, and she starts Monday, which is really exciting. So there's all of this that's happening, but it's very good to be part of a company in it, and throughout all the thick and thin, the ups and downs, at the end we're doing something very special. We're helping people out, and we're introducing a therapy that can really revolutionize the way people live their lives. So yeah, I mean, I that was a bit long, I know.
It's okay. You took us through the whole story. You got a really good picture.
Yeah.
Got a couple follow-ups.
Yeah. Something I want to ask you, just as a former athlete as well, like Cody and I both played sports, and it really shaped who we are, but in good ways and in bad ways. There's like, things that being an athlete gave me and things that I'm overcoming, you know, post being an athlete. So I'm really curious, like, how has being an athlete shaped you, the good and the bad?
Being it, like, I still have the desire to compete, and I do
Hmm.
compete, but I go to my sport now is bodybuilding. So before I launched Lumaflex, I was sort of like, that I was frustrated. We were in the development stage. I was kind of like, and what happens with someone like me, and this is just how my brain is,
Hmm.
I have something else and I need to win in something else. If all my chips are on one thing, which is like the business has a bad day, I have a bad day. It's all like business is up, and I want to sort of create a separation. There's the business and then there's John. And if the business is doing bad, I can go over to this other environment and win here. And I think all athletes are like that. They kind of like need another thing, that sort of is their flag on the planet. That's sort of their identity. And so, yeah, I went into bodybuilding and I competed in 4 competitions in 7 weeks. Yeah, that's another whole funny story. But and I did quite well for I didn't know I was going to do so well, but I guess I was just itching to get into a competition. And I actually just did my 5th competition last weekend,
Yeah.
because I landed here, and I know a coach, and I said, "Hey, listen," and this 2 months ago, I messaged him and I said, "Anniversary of Lumaflex is in May 24th. I want to commemorate this, and I want to do a little challenge. We got 2 months. I'm flying. I got a trip to Thailand. I'm gonna do a quick trip to Bali. Then I'm going to Vietnam. Then I'm gonna come to Hong Kong, and I'll be in China, in Shenzhen. Let's do a competition." So I did a quick little competition prep, and I managed to pull off another competition. But and it's I think it's healthy to have a challenge, because it for me, just for me, and I wouldn't recommend this to everyone, because everyone has different ways of managing stress and kind of like challenging themselves, but also knowing to know what battles to fight. But for me personally, what really works well is to have like another thing outside of the business that I can balance. So I consider myself still an athlete. Like the category that I competed in was like the 40-year-olds, and that's obviously like there's not many people in the 40-year-old category. Let's just say that. So I won that category, but I'm like, that's okay. Like I'll be that guy like in his 50s still on the bodybuilding stage. I was like, that's great.
Let's go.
That's okay. I don't need to be a heavyweight champion anymore. I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like that. I feel the same way as an athlete. I still play a ton of basketball too. So, what about internal battles? Like along this journey or in life in general, what internal battles, self-doubt, burnout, anxiety, like imposter syndrome, like if you had to overcome?
Yeah, I have like imposter syndrome. This I've identified that I've had this
Mm.
very, very early on. So
Hmm.
and I think what I've, during this sort of coming through the self-awareness sort of process, getting older, I think it can be good and it can be bad. That sort of first step, at least for me in my own sort of like self-reflection, has been like being aware of it. You be aware of it and then you manage it. You're like, this is good because it means that I push myself, and I'm trying to, set a good example for my team. And as the team comes on, they say, wow, this is great. This guy, he's running this company. I'm working for this good company, and he's doing these amazing things. And it's a healthy thing, but it's not healthy if it's like for all the wrong reasons, and you're just sort of beating yourself up over I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough, right? And my wife's been a huge support in that whole journey. We've had like those many discussions. We moved to Thailand for a while, and that was where, those beach walks where I've sort of been like, oh, there's something that I've seen in myself, my own sort of how I manage stress, how I see, and I've come to a bit of an awakening here. Let me share it and let's get some feedback. I've had countless conversations with my wife about this, and it's good because you can, get the feet, you can kind of like have someone to, play, that tennis game with, where you,
Yeah.
well, what about this? And you're like, oh, I never thought about that different perspective. And it's kind of like therapy, right? It's like a good little kind of therapy. It's good. It's healthy. But yeah, it's been, and obviously every day there's still these intense struggles, but it's always good to be open and honest and communicate. Like that's something I always tell my wife, like, you're stuck with me, I'm stuck with you. I'm gonna lay dirty laundry out. You're free to lay your dirty laundry out. Like but let's work with each other. Let's help each other out.
That's beautiful. People underestimate how important co-regulation is in so many different areas of the mind and trauma and just the past and limiting beliefs and things like that. So it's awesome you've got a foundation like that
Yeah.
in a relationship like that with her. How has your guys' relationship evolved as you started with all these wild injuries of being an athlete to now being a founder of a technology company?
Yeah, we've had like the Bonnie and Clyde phase, where
Nice.
we're two little gunslingers and we're taking over, but then we've had sort of that almost semi-retirement phase where we're sort of sitting, we're sitting in Thailand, we're on a beach and we're kind of like, are you bored? I'm bored. Should we get back in, back into the grind?
Nice.
And we've had those phases where she does this and then I support her there, then I do this, she supports me there. That's sort of you invest, then I invest.
Nice.
It's very, it's good. And it's like something for me, what I've learned having so many physical and mental sort of trials, and it is you learn like for the man, like I'm physically stronger than the woman. That's kind of like something that I've been given as a person on this planet, right? That's what God's given me. But so I need to sort of every man needs to compensate for that by actually giving a lot of allowance to the woman, right? I have so many friends that this might be a little tangent, but I'll make it quick.
No, I love it.
Yeah, this
I
is
have so,
great. Go off.
so many friends in these relationships, this male and the husband, wife, the girlfriend, boyfriend, and then the man is, oh, there's always this thing where there's, is that the ball and chain that just called you? Yeah, yeah. Like let the man go and have a drink and I never quite understood that because I never agreed with that. I was like, no, isn't there, can't you just talk and say, some mates are in town, I'm not going to come up home late, but like me and my wife, we've always had it like that. It's never been like, oh, I gotta escape my wife, or oh, she wants me home now. Oh, and when I see that with some of my mates, I'm like, I think you just need to have like some quiet time, like spend a little time, go off on a holiday or something, and talk with each other. Kind of figure out like, I'll invest
Yeah.
this, you invest that, I'll invest this. And then you find you don't have that. Very that it's like a meme almost, on social media where the man is like, oh, she gets angry at me for not picking up my socks, like silly little things. Like, I'm like, I've never had that. Like, I've always, relationship that we've always had has always been one where we just like, let's talk about this. Like, and we
Wow.
both want to invest in fixing it as quickly as possible. So, yeah,
That's amazing.
I'm very thankful for that.
How did you develop that though? Did you guys was that just the box factory setting for you guys, or what have you done to get to that place?
Yeah, I think it's been just trial and error, like both of our past things that didn't work. And like you learn from those mistakes and you just don't want to repeat those mistakes again. So you get very focused on like, let's not make the same mistake again. And I know that the data that I have is that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work. Let's try this. And you're very proactive in not just like falling into a vortex. That like sometimes you see that with people, they get in these vortexes and they're trapped. And you're like, what you're saying, you know the answer, but you want to play this vortex game where you're not actually saying what you mean. You're sort of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Then you
Yeah.
have that background, right, Cody, where you kind of can psychoanalyze someone and you can see like you're sort of limiting yourself. You have that sort of experience. because I sometimes see
Yeah.
it with people, and we just I guess we quickly learned. We just had, yeah, we must be blessed. I like that.
Yeah, great work. That's not
Yeah.
everybody's experience. I can assure you of that. Let's shift from your origin story over to your claim to fame here. Let's dive into Lumaflex a little bit here. Could you just tell us what Lumaflex is and why we should care about it in 60 seconds, just to start us off?
Lumaflex. So Lumaflex is what I believe is the best portable red light therapy products in the world. So portability, I believe, is the next generation of red light therapy devices. So having a device in your bag, use on the go for targeted treatment. This is how we behave as human beings, like whether it be the apps that we use or the products that we buy. We always want something that adapts to us, adapts to our lifestyle, our routine. And I believe that's what we've done with Lumaflex. If there's a race of red light therapy products, and the way you win this race is this is the device you will use this same time next year, that's the race I think we want. So we didn't necessarily go for the one that was like, the one that all the doctors put their stamp of approval on, but it's the one that you'll be using this same time next year, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, completely. Now there are other companies that are making portable red light therapy, but why, start your own instead of just buying, their stuff? What was the gap, especially in portable red light therapy devices?
So that with Cody's device, and I'll grab my here. So the actual size, I spent quite a bit of time actually deciding the exact size of Lumaflex
Mm,
because the number one pain in America is the lower back pain. Remember, I think Elon Musk, like late last year, got up on stage in a big speech and he's like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could just figure out back pain? Wouldn't that just make the world so much happier? And I was like, exactly. Lower back is like what everyone talks about. People get on all kinds of painkillers and maybe even have surgery for a lower back more than anything else. But I didn't want to go too big to where it's not fitting in the average carry bag that everybody has, whether they be a gym person, some mother who's taking their kids to soccer practice, or a guy, a dad that has it in his backpack when he's going to work. I wanted a certain size that addressed that pain, that had enough surface area, but it wasn't too big. It wasn't these big strap-on like weight belts, the powerlifters wear. So the size itself took us a couple of months to even narrow down to get to that exact size. And using liquid silicone, encouraging skin contact, because when we have a manual. Inside, we have a power output. We want to guarantee that power output like into your body. And the power output, what Peter, my educational director, was saying, is the power output can vary depending on where the device is from your body. So best just to have it touch skin, because then we can say, okay, now if a doctor has this as a tool in his toolkit and he's giving a prescription, he could say, if you're touching skin, this is the power output. Let me do, and it's a 10-minute timer on the battery. I would like you to do 3 sessions a day, 2 sessions a day, for X number of. He can kind of develop a protocol because it's touching skin. And then touching skin there's a hygiene issue there because if there's textile products and you're touching skin, there's sweat. Then you have to clean it, and if you clean it, there's an issue maybe with the LEDs. You may damage the LEDs, and how long is it going to last being textile? So we said, okay, let's go liquid silicone, and let's go a step further. Let's not make it sweat proof, but let's even go further and make it waterproof. And let's make a device that's environment and temperature tested. And in the future, what I'm thinking is to even make it pressure tested. And the reason for that is from actually, I'll just say his name. The guy's name is Levi Webb. Levi Webb, great buddy of mine, and he served in the military, and he was cleaning a gun. He was under a gun cleaning, and the gun fell on his back, and he got sciatic. Currently, right now, he's dealing with sciatic. And
Jeez.
I was like, what if we were to make a device that's so durable, that's so environmental, we could introduce it to the military? That could be our North Star. So Lumaflex is like North Star. When before you go to bed, when you're looking up at the ceiling and you're having your dreams, when you're dreaming of wonders, dreaming of the future. I'm dreaming of introducing red light therapy into the military in a device that can be actually into their pack, their bag. So it's sort of the durability, the robustness of it is something that I'm trying to push pushing very hard on that with the product. So right now it's currently IP67, which means it's, I think IP67 is 2 meters underwater, 45 minutes that gets IP67 stamp. But now we're looking at IP68 and then IP69 for future devices. And that just means it's a device that, I mean, with the relationships I have with VAs, like Boca near Miami, there's a VA clinic. And I've met a lot of wonderful people there that in this clinic that focus on wellness treatment for vets. And I've met some very amazing people that have had major transformations using holistic therapy. And, you know, with these sort of relationships, I'm thinking like this could potentially happen where that can be like my flag that I could put, you know, on my you know, that my tombstone is introducing red light therapy into the military. But obviously that, you know, the more needs to be done with the product, and the versions that we're bringing out this year and are in the roadmap for next year are further certified environment and temperature tested. And so that's kind of where I saw there was a bit of a difference with other devices, and where we don't take away from those devices, but we complement. We all have multiple shoes, like my wife. Wow, she's got shoes. You don't just have one pair of shoes, right? You've got shoes for all different use cases. For me, my thing is caps. Like I've got a cap collection. I've got like, they're all over the world. Some I've left at mates' places. I love caps. I don't just have one. And I was like, yeah, in the future, why would you just want one device? Why not have a device at home, like a bed, a panel, you know? Maybe you could have a device for beauty. And maybe then the Lumaflex is that carry device. You can take it on a plane. You know, maybe if there's a business trip that's happening, the dad's like, oh, my back's acting up again. Take your Lumaflex. I was like, that's where we can fit. And let's not try to go out of our area of expertise. Let's just focus on a good portable product. So that's kind of what Lumaflex is doing. I've had so many people come to me, ask me about panels, like make a large, you know, do this, do. It's always big devices. And I'm like, well, I know my buddy makes a device, his brand, his device is good for that. Why would I make a device that competes with his one? I'll just stick to a portable device, and one that is
Right.
multi-use, right? You can put it anywhere. And also with I'm a big pet guy too. I've got a lot of cats. I'm a cat guy.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, I've got Summer's my oldest cat. Yeah, she's getting, but she's still a champion. You know, there's a lot of science to support red light therapy for your pets. So if you have a liquid silicone device, you can actually give this to your pet if he's having stomach issues. I have another cat, Gina, right now. She has inflammation in her gut. Gina, you can put the device on her, and afterwards I can clean it and I can still use it. So I like that multiple use, versatility, portability. I very much like that. I don't like, this is the device. There's one way to use it. That's it. I like the idea of being able to, you know, bring it into different environments and have it, you know, very, very multi-use. That's sort of always where my head is, you know. Is that the way to go? I don't know. Let's find out. But yeah, worth a try.
Hey, it's a way to differentiate yourself. It's crazy too. You mentioned low back pain because I was trying it out. I got mine yesterday night or whatever, and I was trying it out. And CrossFit yesterday, I did heavy back squats, and so my back is hurting. So I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll put it on my low back, see what happens. So I was testing it out this morning on my low back, and I'm gonna try it for the next few days. We'll see what happens. I'll have to report
Fantastic.
back to everybody. But
Fantastic.
it's funny you
Yes.
mentioned that. Speaking of consumers, would you say is the most important promise your product makes to consumers?
Well, that's, yeah, very, like in terms of the audience that we're targeting, because I wanted to make promises to the fitness audience. I came from a fitness background. I want to put the device in the military. But the thing is in the audience of fitness there's not much interest in light therapy. Most of my bodybuilder buddies, most of my powerlifting boys are like, no, mate, no, I've got something else, man. You know, I've got wink, wink, you know. Um,
Jesus.
and I'm like, this device can be in your bag, you know, open your gym bag. You've got your, you know, your weight belt, your creatine, your, you know, your essential amino acids and all this. Now you have a Lumaflex. So I was always like, this is the best device for an athlete. But the response from launching, what I've learned is they're a very difficult audience. So that now our positioning now is more wellness. It's more medical, more biohacking, and they understand it and resonate it. You know, portable device got you. Like like, who's the guy? No, it's not Brian Johnson, Dave Asprey. Dave
Yeah.
Asprey. Dave Asprey, this guy, he's bought it off our Shopify. And he messaged our Shopify, and I've met him and I've like high-fived him, keep up the good work. And he messaged and he was like, I needed advice. And I think he said, I'm leaving for Turkey. I need to take it with me. And that's kind of where I think what, the promise that we can make is it's your companion. It's with you on the go, anytime, anywhere. Like that, if you're thinking like, oh, I've got a business trip, I want to maintain my red light therapy. Like I do red light therapy. Like I should be glowing red with the amount of red light therapy that I'm doing. And I can't imagine not having, like, if I don't have it, I don't feel like it. For me, it's nighttime. I do my nighttime. So that's kind of where we fit. It's the more like it's 10-minute treatments, pain management for recovery, and we're portable and we're on the that's kind of our, what I would like to promise. And I hope fitness people get on top of the red light therapy train. Like I want them to start because it's not as big in fitness as I would hope it would be. But I guess it's coming, right? It's something that is getting traction.
Yeah. I've got Murph this weekend at my CrossFit gym, so maybe I'll bring a Lumaflex and strap it on and just let everybody be like, what is that? And see if we
Yeah,
can get some of them CrossFitters using it. That'd be interesting.
it is hard. That's hard work. That
It
CrossFit,
is.
that's hard. Very tough work.
It is very, very tough. What's like the most broken or frustrating part about the red light therapy industry from your perspective and your inside look?
I think because I guess it's more about just how people perceive red light therapy. Like it's pseudoscience, like, oh, you're a sun worshiper, light. It's and and it's understandable because we as humans, we want things on the go. When we order food and it takes like 40 minutes, that's 40 minutes too long. It's like under 30 minutes and I'm okay. We do want things done fast. So most people that when they approach red light therapy, there is an investment of time you need to make into it. There are some times where, like, I remember in New York, we were at a conference called Beyond Active. It's like a wellness conference. And there was a gentleman who had this shoulder. It was some sport injury on his shoulder. And he wasn't able to sleep on his shoulder for like 20 years or something. And we did like a treatment here, 10 minutes, and then we did a treatment on the back of the shoulder. And he was like, wow. And he calls his wife, he runs off. And I remember I was with Peter, and Peter was like filming him because Peter's also doing a documentary on light therapy, on the different responses and everything. It's nothing to do with brands or anything. He's just like talking about light, and lots of different products are going to pop up in this documentary. But there are instances like that where the feedback is very, very fast. Then there's this, most of the time is you need to put some investment into it. Daily treatments every day. Let's look at 2 weeks. I've talked with some doctors who are heavy onto using red light therapy. They believe in it. They endorse it. And they say, usually for patients, I always give a month of treatment. Like we're going to do this for a month and then we come back and we assess. But people aren't, they're like, I want something now. I want that feeling now. So that's, I think the most frustrating thing is trying to kind of see it, look at it from a different side, your overall well-being. Light is something that we need in our lives. It's an essential, it's like a vitamin that we should have every day. What I've learned from Peter is seeing how light is like, it's almost at the top. We as beings of light, born under the light and coming from, a time when we were like in our history, we were under light. Oh, it's like 85% of the time of our days were in under artificial light, right? So understanding that like the importance of light, and you do need light and it's for your overall well-being. Like this is good for you. Don't just think of it as like, I have an issue. Can it help now? It doesn't, moving on. And that's kind of that's the thing that really pains me. And I think it pains everyone in photobiomodulation. It's like from all of the brands that I know, many of which we all like have the same sort of manufacturing relationships. We have the same people that do our packaging. We have the same like logistic relationship. So we run into each other a lot. And that's kind of like the thing, that and I see some brands, they do stay in the biohacking niche. They stay in the medical niche. And I understand it's good because people, it's like you're almost finishing each other's sentences, when you meet and you kind of just like, well, you already know it. What do you think of my device? And you can get, traction in those communities. But then we also need to remember, like, why are we doing this? Are we doing this just to sell to people that like red light or know about red light? Or are we trying to actually create a movement, where we're introducing light to people that have never heard about it? But that's the frustrating part, is like stepping out of that comfort zone of, not, targeting the biohackers and the doctors, and the people that are educated, but actually targeting, that guy Joe who's like on the couch, with his beer, watching a silly TV show, and he's like, "What, red light?" And I'm thinking, how can we say it in a way where he's like, "Oh, that's interesting." I think that's something I have a lot of difficulty with, is trying to find the right hooks, to,
In researching a lot of what y'all are up to, I think, and going through your website, going through that foundations course that you sent over as well. I mean, I think you guys are on the right path directionally.
yeah,
That's still a pretty large investment of time for someone necessarily, which
yes,
I get it as someone who is more academic and wants to like look and learn. There is something to be said for like shorter bits of information, and that Joe sitting on the couch might not watch a 90-minute foundations
that's
course, but he might watch a 15-second TikTok
that's
or something like that. And so,
that,
but that being said, y'all definitely, absolutely, of all the red light people we've looked at in general, do some of the best of what you just said, of trying to get to that average consumer and trying to get to the general public to understand some of this stuff. So
yeah.
props to you guys on that stuff for sure. And that's like the perfect transition into our next step, or our next section, which is called the lab, where we kind of talk about some of the science and some of the proof and some experiments you guys have run, and some of this more technical stuff a little bit here, to talk about some of the evidence and claims and all this kind of stuff in this space. So what was the original question that led you to build this device, or what was keeping you up at night in relation to research and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, the was yeah from that lamp, going from that lamp and looking at what it can do, what exactly are the nanometers of red light, what exactly are the nanometers of infrared light, and what is it that we need of one or the other, and what is actually that we're trying, are we trying to have a beauty outcome, an overall well-being outcome, or are we trying to like target pain? And for me, it was always targeting pain. So
Mm-hmm.
how, like, trying to have enough research that I understood that the product that we're making is something that can address pain, because I believe people will pay more, like they'll pay more for something that'll address pain than they will for like a beauty outcome, right? Like if something helps you with your pimples, you're like, yeah, I'll buy this cream, or I buy, I was like, we need to look at pain management as like our governing outcome that we provide. Yeah, looking at the different nanometers, we decided on 630 in the beginning for red light, and then 850 for infrared light. Because those obviously are heavily researched. Lots of devices are already FDA cleared with those devices, so it's easy to get an FDA clearance on using those nanometers. But going further than that, what I'm interested now is a wider spread of nanometers, and this is kind of what we're talking about with Peter now. Our next product, I'm looking at 6 nanometers with a much larger spread that sort of mimics what is available to us outside, in the light outside during the day, and then also having pulse light. And this is like having different frequencies of light. There's research that supports that for different conditions, for not just pain, but also for the brain. Now, do you guys know Sarah's device, Sarah Turner? She has a
Yeah, we
device.
actually had her on here. We interviewed her and her product on here.
Okay, excellent. So that's what her device is doing. It's frequencies of light a lot of that research is from her. And she's specifically targeting the brain. So what I did with the Body Pro is I made it Bluetooth connected, and the
Mm-hmm.
app has always provided pulse light. It's always provided, but the current version of the app, I didn't quite like it, so I haven't talked about it. So all the Body Pros that are out in the world right now are able to connect to an app right now, which is being revamped next week, finally. And what's interesting to me now is the research that I've been given by Peter, and what we're working on to actually introduce, where you can adjust the hertz. So Sarah's device has fixed hertz for a specific brain outcome, but what I thought was, why not have the user actually adjust the hertz like a bar? It's like a slide bar on the app, where you can do, say, 40 hertz. And then there's, oh, this paper with these nanometers supports that outcome with 40 hertz. Then you could do 50 hertz and then maybe even go up to 100 hertz, which is what I'm aiming for the app launch. And that's kind of where that's our next step with looking at clinical research and designing the product and optimizing the product for the clinical research. And then before the end of this year, I'm hoping to be able to launch the same thing where we can adjust the hertz, but now have 6 nanometers that are available in the one device. And it's exactly the same size, the same size. Not a bigger device. It's still portable. It's still liquid silicone, but it just these nanometers now. It doesn't have two, not dual LED, but now I've got a spread of different 6.
Could you give a little bit of the science behind what you're just? I think we probably skipped that. So could you give a little bit of the science behind red light therapy and nanometers and light? And for someone who maybe didn't go through the foundations course, a listener might need just a brief
Yeah.
explanation.
Yeah, you're very right. That foundations course with 1.5 hours, the feedback I've got so many times is that it is too long and it needs to be cut up and digestible, like easy to understand. So we So the how this is how Peter introduced it to me those years ago. Light obviously is it's not something that was made in the laboratory, which I earlier thought was light therapy was made in it was something like that was created with a bunch of tech guys that are creating this magical light. But it's available to us outside. It's from the sun. There's specific nanometers, the red and infrared spectrum that are available at sunrise and sunset without UV light, because UV light can be bad for you if you've got too much exposure. Like in Thailand, definitely there's certain times of the day when you go out there, you just burn. You absolutely just burn. So in our early history, I would imagine that our body was more conditioned to red light therapy. We're more conditioned to UV light because of our continual exposure during sunrise and sunset. We would wake up at sunrise. This would obviously boost our body's SPF levels, which would then protect us for the times when it was UV light. But now, because we're not exposed to as much sun, those that UV light's quite harmful for us. So we've taken the nanometer of red light, which is 630, and this goes about an inch into the body. And then we've taken the nanometer 850, which goes about 4 inches into the body. And those 2 nanometers we programmed into the LED. And that penetrates your skin and it activates your mitochondria. Your body's made up of billions of cells. And inside the cell is like the driver. It's like if you guys watch F1, how I sort of see your cell is like an F1 car. And then the engine of the F1 car, that's your mitochondria. And it overheats, obviously, if with inflammation. Obviously, me back in my earlier days, injuring myself and pushing myself, that was like my cells were getting very, very overheated. And to get light into your mitochondria, that now is increasing your blood circulation. This is what the magic of light is. It can actually increase blood circulation, increase cellular energy, and reduce inflammation. So it turns off that inflammation switch that happens to us. But the inflammation isn't bad. The switch is telling your brain that you have something, you have an issue, you have a condition. There's something wrong with your knee, with your shoulder, with your back, and you need to address it. You need to give it energy. So I think what would happen to us in earlier days, we would obviously use the sun as our healing. That was like our multivitamin. I firmly believe that we were far more respectful of the sun in ancient times. And I believe it's true for in when you're looking at things like the pyramids or like ancient, buildings and everything like that, you do see the respect that we had for the sun and how we did see the sun as a multivitamin, so to speak. It was something that would heal us. But the times have, gone on and we've forgotten about it. But now we're introducing that same healing light into a device, into something that you can carry with you on the go. But it's not like many people think that it's not something it's not created in a laboratory. It's from the sun. And obviously you should go out and get your sunlight. I'm not in no way should it replace, getting your sun exposure. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is go outside the door and just expose myself to natural light. But it doesn't necessarily, but there's maybe it's an overcast day, or maybe it's raining, or maybe you don't have time, or you go from outside straight into the car. You're not necessarily always under sunlight. So you do need a device that you can keep with you anywhere on the go, and you can have that healing light from the sun. So in short, like light, it's like your body is like your cell phone, and light is like the cord that plugs it in. It's like healing your body through literally light energy. So when someone says, can it help this condition or can it help, that condition? I see that like, well, your phone, if you're asking me about apps, don't worry about asking me about apps. Just give your body energy and just plug the phone in. So
Mm.
it's like your body's a solar panel. That's how Peter describes it, is your body's a solar panel. Your body's a solar panel that energy from light is energizing your body. And that's, from my earlier days, not paying much attention, to light and focusing more on, say, on diet, on sleep, which obviously very, very important. What I've seen how my life has changed and how I see everyone's life can change is when light kind of becomes more prominent, becomes more important, and you're giving your body, you're dressing your body on a cellular level. That's it obviously has made a massive change in my life and really impacted me and those around me that I've talked about with or shared the device with. And that's something I want to encourage everybody else to do as well. Like don't think light is it's actually the most important element for our body.
Right. It's awesome. We've had quite a few red light therapies or light therapy, light photobiomodulation type companies on here. So we know a little bit, at least the listener knows a little bit about some of this stuff. And something that we see a lot in these different companies is that they make claims, they use general research to talk about their specific device, but haven't yet sometimes done research using their specific device. So I'm just curious, do you guys have any research that you've done with Lumaflex specifically or plan to do?
Yeah, the only thing that we can do that we pushed forward on is having the device part of a study. So the study that we pushed for was women's reproductive health by I think it's the University of Michigan. There was a group, there's two ladies. They would actually be great for your podcast. And they're focusing on a study using women's reproductive health. And they asked, can this device be part of the study because it's using liquid silicone? So that
Nice.
obviously it needs to be in those areas, right? And so liquid silicone is hygienic, you can clean it. And so the only way that I would be able to afford a study is if I were to give units, or I would be part of a small part of the study, say contribute, a bit of funding or with the device. And then the other way I could do it is something we pushed for last year, but it fell through, as a user trial. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. Probably it would be next year that we do it, because there's these certain windows where user trial is available. But as far as an actual clinical study, it's expensive, very
Oh
expensive,
yeah.
expensive,
Yeah.
very, very
Oh
expensive.
yeah, no, we get it. You never know. Sometimes some
That's
of
some,
these things come out of research institutions and they've done some of that and that's how it got to market, but you just never know. It's just good to know that it's on your mind at least.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's like something with Sarah, bless her heart. She's taught me so much as well. She's wonderful. There's her, and there's three other companies that I personally know of that do brain devices. And like I think we were in Amsterdam for a conference, and they all the brands were there, these brain devices. And there was a discussion that we were having exactly the same, where they were like, who's going to be the one that puts down the money to have the treatment go through the process? Because the one
Yes.
that does it, it's a big investment, massive millions. But when you do it, then the whole wave can go.
Yes.
Then everybody's brain device can go into a medical facility and actually be, prescribed.
Exactly.
But and so they're all kind of like, looking, who's gonna and I remember telling them, I said, what you do in this situation is you would kind of get together, because brain is obviously it's an important part, right? A very, very it's a very good cause. Is you would do like a crowdfunding campaign, or you get a grant. But I said, in this sort of a situation with something as very, very advanced, like a medical device in photobiomodulation, you should work together to do this. You should all like somehow pull resource, because it's a huge undertaking. And I think uh it's like a 2 year, I think I want to say a 2 year process
Oh
that
yeah. It's not easy.
so yeah, I said like we can look for opportunities to sponsor units and everything. Like if I look through the clinical database and I see some studies, I can see the unit that was used in the
Yeah.
study. I was like, damn it, I want to get my one. It's the exact same, but I just want so that's something that everybody can do. And and after the women's reproductive one, then next year we look for every year we got to look for one. And but that's kind of like short term, but definitely long term is somehow everyone getting together, all these brands getting together and saying, like, let's take the whole photobiomodulation industry to another level. And the only way you can do it is, I think, working together. Because at the end, like we're here not to fight with each other, because it's still a very small area, light therapy. I believe it's still very, very small. But we're trying to fight against pharmaceuticals and the use of like drugs, of prescription drugs, right? And that's a huge battle. That's a massive undertaking. So us combining resources and doing it together, I'm all for it 100%. If anyone's listening is down, let's do it.
Dude, I think it's interesting you bring up pharmaceuticals because it's something I see a lot is the wellness industry is vastly like the pharmaceutical industry is one thing for sure, but there is many things you have to do before a pharmaceutical can get out into the world. It's
Yeah.
tested, it has to go through all sorts of stuff. There's tons of investment that goes into it, and it's maybe not a perfect mechanism. I absolutely will give it that, but the wellness industry, anyone with an Instagram account can start to promote their product and service with a 13-year-old TikTok influencer in the basement
That's
and get millions of their units in the hands of random consumers with any claim that they want to make. And that's the
that's
wellness industry right now, if you will. And so what you're describing, I really like this
yeah.
like group, like the film industry, for example. They were going to be regulated, and before they could be regulated, they decided, okay, we're going to make a rating system that we hold ourselves to. And they came together and they made a rating system, and they all came together and agreed to that and went with that, and that allowed consumers to be happy, the regulators to be happy, like all of this stuff. And so
Yeah.
I think what you're describing is a very good idea, and
That's how
I would love to see that in the wellness, red light therapy, but wellness in general.
yeah, some sort of like board, or like like
Something,
a fellowship, a
something.
fellowship.
Yeah.
Because it's that's very true. That's very true. I never thought about that in that way, and it's actually 100% true that because of the way social media is and how people know how to grab attention. Like they'll do that. What's that called when you give a title of something?
Clickbait.
A clickbait. They do a clickbait. So when you know the tips and tricks, the little hacks of social media, you can get away with so much. You can get away with so much naughtiness, right?
Yes.
That's really true. And now wellness is like the next big thing. It was like back in the day, it was
Absolutely.
fitness. We had the P90X, we went into like Five had its thing, CrossFit, and now wellness is like the new thing that everyone wants to be part of. And the influencers, to be a wellness influencer is a nice little badge of pride, right? Like I'm a wellness influencer. It has a lot of prowess to it. Yeah, I never thought about it like that. But that's 100% true. That it can be. You have to watch out because as you're scrolling, as you're looking at something, content can do that. They know how to create really good, selling content with that clickbait.
Oh yeah.
So you need to watch
We
out.
had a neuroscientist on who is one of the founders of neuromarketing, and he has a 6-step process to hack your primal brain, then get into the left portion of your prefrontal cortex, which is if you're in the left side of your prefrontal cortex, you make a buying decision towards, and if you're on the right side of your prefrontal cortex, you go away. And so it is a 6-step process on how to make it personal, how to make it contrast, and it is an exact science.
It's a
And it's
science. I was going to say it's a science.
I mean, it is. So it's like our brains aren't prepared or ready for this many things coming at us like that. And brands have neuromarketers and these neuroscientists working against us. It's a huge reason why we started this show. It's why Chloe and I do what we do here at Decision Lab. Like we want to help cut through all that shit.
That's
And we know it. Like it's what we
Yeah.
study. Chloe worked in the pharmaceutical space. I'm a brain scientist. Like
That's
it's just
right.
it's kind of crazy.
That's right. Yeah.
So
It's like that movie Wolf of Wall Street.
yeah.
He has a system, and that system is almost like bulletproof. And if you went, so yeah, if you know that, if you're like, I just want to sell something, you can learn how to hack people's brains and make them easy. And down to like the price, the exact time. It's so well said. It's a science. It's a science.
Yeah. So it's crazy. It's stuff we
Oh,
help
it's better.
people with and
I'm terrible at
try to
that.
help consumers understand. Yeah, no worries. It's a great transition into what we call the interrogation, which is where we get to be kind of the skeptical buyer and get you. Not everyone gets to talk to the founder of a product they might want to buy. And so we love asking our audience if they have questions for you, and then we have some for ourselves. And the first one is, what is there any common pushback you get from people who are trying to get Lumaflex for the first time or when they hear about it for the first time? And what do you say?
Common pushback. Let's see. What's a good one? Somebody messaged me before. They said, "Oh, I have a device and it didn't work." They said, "I already have a device and it didn't work, so I'm not impressed." And I was like, "Wait, wait, wait! Tell me what the device was." And that didn't go very far. She was like, "No." But yeah, it's yeah. I think I wish I had more pushback because I would have to say that because I do B2B, like I'm relationship that it's all down to buyers, big buyers of retail, big buyer like distribution. So whenever there's a pushback,
Mm,
it's more about something to do with pricing, payment
mm,
plans, things of this nature. But if I had a talk with our ecom team, and I remember I had a talk with our ecom team before, and I was like, give me an analysis of who our buyer is. And the feedback they gave me was most of our buyers already know about red light therapy. They're just picking us as the portable one. And to me, that was quite disappointing because it means that like we're not really going outside and talking to people that obviously need it more. But yeah, definitely for feedback for me is more with buyers. It's down to like it's imports, import duties. It's that sort of negotiation. It's down to the first kickoff order, the monthly commitment, the 6 month commitment, the year-long commitment. It's down to these sorts of that's sort of where they always are, can I test it and do this first? Can I have these can I basically have the contract but with a small order to test out first? And I'm like, well, that I'm giving you exclusivity, but you haven't purchased enough to earn it. But that's kind of the more the feedback I've been getting in the last year because I've been all over talking to buyers. It's all about global distribution.
So we were just talking about like pushback and stuff you get. Sounds like it's more from like buyer, like bigger buyers, not general consumers necessarily. A question I have is, what are the risks of overuse or common ways people might misuse red light therapy, whether it's intentionally, unintentionally, or like overexposure, anything like that?
I think if you have a skin condition or you have a reaction to sunlight, but most people already know that that's not really someone who has a skin condition is not going to approach Lumaflex and look for treatment. But there is a certain amount that caps you, fills your battery up, and then you don't necessarily get any more additional benefit. And I personally have felt that when I'm because like I said, I do red light therapy so much that I should be glowing red. I've actually had better result when I don't do too much. And I don't think it's an exact sort of number. It's down to the individual because something, that's interesting is people with darker pigment, because we've launched in Africa. Super exciting. Africa. Lumaflex is in Africa. Boom. Like I've never even been to Africa. And we've got
Me either.
and there's something something that we talked with them about when talking about is we said like, when you have darker skin, there's definitely a different reaction than someone with lighter skin because of the melatonin. And all these things need to be taken into account when it comes to overexposure. But you can't necessarily say, I couldn't say like do your whole body X amount of time or we kind of say, well, for aim at the pain, you have a shoulder issue, do 2 times a day. And I think what would be a good idea is if you had like a pain scale from 1 to 10. And then if you're progressing, you can keep it at that. But if you're not, maybe you can add in a session. You kind of have to give yourself that treatment yourself. But I remember hearing in a conference about a study with full body exposure, like in a bed, like one of those cocoon beds, that 20 minutes kind of fills your battery up, with a full body device. But the battery deplete differently depending on the person, their age, their injuries, if they have they've stubbed their toe, if they're stressed from losing their job, or if they've got cancer, they're going to have different rates of battery depletion to whether or not they need another top up either that day, the next day, or whenever. So I think what I would encourage everyone using with red light therapy is to really, if you take it seriously and you invest in the treat, be self-aware and ask yourself how you're feeling, because there definitely is a point when doing too much doesn't mean you get any more benefit. You just flatline. It's like you just stay, you kind of just, there's no negative benefit, negative side effects, but there's no positive. So you're kind of just looking for that optimal amount of dosage. And for me personally, in the morning, if I have it on my head for 10 minutes, if I have it on the back of my neck for my spine for 10 minutes, I have it on my chest for 10 minutes and my gut for 10 minutes, I wouldn't do that again until the night. So that's how I felt for me, for my overall well-being, because I'm injury free at the moment. That's where I felt like I don't need to do more than that. Of course, at the office, sometimes like I have a few devices and I'll have like, there'll be like lunch, takeaway or something, and we get like the whole team some food, and I'll eat something that is kind of out of my normal diet plan, like something very oily, and I'll start to get gurgles in my stomach, and I'll usually grab a device and I'll help, it helps me digest. But normally I don't. I try to keep, just the morning and the evening. And that's what I would recommend to everybody. Just don't, like, overusing doesn't mean additional benefit.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, cool. That's great. Let's dive into some claims and some things here. One of the biggest things overall is in red light therapy in general, not just specifically Lumaflex, but the strongest evidence, if like you look at hardcore research, is around vision in children, especially like myopia. You guys have some of that on your guys' website. The other research is emerging for sure, but it's not necessarily conclusive. There's not a ton of human trials, or human trials. There's a lot of pilot studies. How do you guys think about marketing claims about research that is still emerging research, but how do you think about marketing product services, making claims in relation to that?
Yeah, we are definitely not we're not allowed to make claims. Something that, like, I have access to, like a regulatory department from a relationship with my manufacturer. They have told me about red light therapy companies that have kind of stepped over the line and made a claim, and we're not allowed to. We just simply can't. We can say red light therapy. There's a study on red light therapy that does this. Red light therapy. We can talk about wonderful game changer. Da, da, da. But then when we come to our product, we have to stay within a very, very limited space. We can't, like, I remember not too long ago reviewing the updates on the packaging for Lumaflex. And this is funny when you said earlier, like, about copywriters. And I remember looking at this copy and I was like, no, we can't say that. We can't say that. We can't say. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to do some extra hours in the office here. But we'll say, like, say for example, pain relief is a phrase we need to watch out for. Red light therapy can help pain relief, but we'd have to say supports discomfort, or we could say manage discomfort or pain management or something like this. We can't. All of us we can't make it in any way any claims. And in the manual, we can't say use if you have a heart condition, use if you're pregnant, use on your eyes. I think we say keep your eyes closed, do not look into the LEDs. But then you get Peter, he's just like a photobiomodulation scientist. He actually consults for a lot of red light therapy companies. Wonderful guy. And he's like, no, you can and you can. And I'm like, I know that, based on what yes, you can, but I'm not allowed to say that. I'm not allowed to say, I can't make
Right.
anyone make it. Like,
Yeah, we got to get some more science.
yeah, you have to, like, put on the brand hat and then stick to the rules and say, that it can, it is known, red light therapy is known to support pain. It is known to provide, pain management. Why don't you try it? That kind of has to be where we play. That's like our field. And then, on the other side, red light therapy, these conferences, they can, because they just talk about red light therapy.
Yeah, they can get wild. Something might be worth taking a look at is on your guys' website. There is something that says we provide portable red light therapy that's clinically proven with clinically proven pain relief, FDA cleared treatment. Which FDA cleared doesn't necessarily mean it's proven safe, but doesn't necessarily mean it's proven for a specific result, which I'm sure you know. So
Yes.
might be something to take a look at on the initial portion of your website there, because I would agree with what you're saying. It's just what's being
Yes.
put in front of the consumer could be confusing.
Yes. Where does it say that? Oh, no, I'll be able to find it. I'll get into the, but yeah, there's certain phrases that we say it, we check it with regulatory, and if they say change this word or change that, and if it passes, but what is on there right now, I will definitely need to do my due diligence to pass everything through regulatory, because it's
Yeah,
the
that'd be one to take a look at.
packaging, if that passes, but then the site, that's the other mountain that I need to climb.
Yeah, it's a big one that consumers see at first. So, and again, these are just things that we notice because we see hundreds of these things as we interview people. The other one that I noticed, we interviewed Sarah Turner. She's down there on your website, cited as a PhD and a neurologist and someone who supports your guys' stuff. Love her to death, but she's not a neurologist and she definitely doesn't have a PhD. And so that's something else to maybe look at as well. She's a master's in clinical neuroscience and she's done a shit ton of research. And we interviewed her, so like she told us all this stuff herself. But
Yeah.
neurologists have MDs and they go to medical school. So just maybe
Did I
another
just
thing to look at.
did I just give her a free PhD?
You might have, which is, I mean, I get it. And I know she's the one who introduced us. So I know she loves y'all, but just something to be
Nice.
aware of as far as
Yes.
something that could confuse consumers when they're checking some of this stuff out. One of the things I noticed on your guys' website, you do pretty well actually, is put tons of research. You have a pretty good research database that links
Oh,
to
yes,
some,
in the learn section, right? Yeah, I'm looking at the site
yeah.
right now, and I just made a note on Sarah Turner. Yes.
Mm. Yeah, the research though that you guys provide and blogs that I don't know who writes those, but I mean, they're pretty good. Some of them link to or mention comprehensive meta-analyses, and some of them are linking to meta-analyses, but some of them are smaller studies and like pilot studies, which isn't bad, and I still think is good. What is your guys' thought on the research and stuff that you publish? Or it's not really the research you're publishing, but the blogs about research you publish. Who writes those? What are your guys' thoughts on that? Because it's really comprehensive, and I'm impressed.
Yeah, I know this it's part of the ecom department, and I believe the lady who does our writing, she might be yeah, I'm not sure where she's remote, but she definitely is remote. But yeah, I think yeah, what was her latest near this is the clinical trials. I think she did produce something for meditation was our last one. But yeah, I think if you think it's good, but if not, I would need to review it, then I definitely will.
Well, I was just more wondering what your guys' like process or thoughts on that is like, because not a ton of companies do that. A lot of companies say X meta-analysis, X, Y, or Z, and don't provide any links. You guys at least provide some links. The
Yeah.
links, some of the links that you provide are like pilot studies, and I wouldn't expect the average consumer to know the difference between a pilot study and a meta-analysis. So that could be a little bit like separating what is a true meta-analysis from a pilot study could be
Okay.
helpful. But the fact that you guys are linking studies and writing blogs to help people understand science communication that's huge. That's awesome.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, I
I
think
love to see that.
our ecom team, they have a structure that she follows. So when she does her research, there's obviously things like keywords and that she has to incorporate into it. And there's certain trends that are happening that she has to write about. But then there's the clinical side that she has to research, and then she has to add, there's sort of a framework that she always has to follow.
Nice.
That's good.
That's cool.
Yeah,
What do you guys think about user reviews? I noticed that you have a lot of user reviews on there as well. How do you guys conceptualize that, or how do you guys think about that? Being that you can't necessarily do, at least right now, large scale clinical trials and things like that because it's just too expensive. You do have access to 50,000 users. Like, what are your thoughts on user data and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's sometimes the user, the feedback that will go to our trust pilot, and some of these pilot reviews, it's more like people just literally just saying that they got the unit and they like it. But what I would like in terms of a review is something where it actually has helped with a specific pain. But I don't think that is like some people don't want to share that, and I guess that's fine. That I'm not asking people to share stuff, but if definitely I could wave a magic wand. If people were a bit more open about it, that would be nice about
Yeah.
what they're sharing. But that's kind of private. I guess I can understand that. There was one guy, Justin, UK, who had like two knees, a knee issue, and he like put the device on that knee, and he said, "Oh, it's working really, really well. I'm gonna now put it on this one," and he's sending like these photos of these knee injuries he has where he's doing. And that's very nice, but that's done in private. I can't ask him to like go and put that out, but maybe I'll try and
Yeah.
ask him that. That would
That'd be interesting. It's in this day and age with all these wellness products and having so many access to users, what is science and what is evidence is sometimes like kind of interesting because you have access to so many users potentially. Uh, it'd be interesting. Maybe it's not clear evidence or you can't make a claim with the evidence, but it is data. and it's interesting data. Whoop does a lot of this. They have data scientists and people like that. But do you guys plan to do any large scale studies or anything with your users to try and like get more like data where you actually ask them, hey, will you do a couple months trial with us or something like that?
Yeah, there's actually a special platform that allows you to do that. And I had a call with the guy,
Nice.
because it's all done, it can be all done on a platform. You basically, just like you said, you can use your existing user database and have them all come into a platform. And this platform is specific for supporting getting user trials on a product. But yeah, they're a really good team. They're a really good team. But it's there's a budget that needs to be found first.
I bet.
But it's something
Nothing's cheap, sadly.
it's something that is definitely available. It's just as putting the pieces together. I already know the app to do it. It's good. I know the team. They're wonderful people.
Beautiful. I think that could be awesome. Do you know what the name of the app is, just so that we could shout
Yeah.
them out? Or
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll send you the I'll find him on the email. They're I believe that they're in England. Believe they're in the UK. And
that's cool.
it's some I thought it was something like an at first when I did the call, I thought it was a trial. I thought it was like they're pitching us to do a trial. And they said, no, we actually have the platform that's what our business is the platform. So you still need to put all the pieces together, but we just have it all done in one platform where it's all,
Ah,
yeah.
interesting. That's cool. I like that. All right, sweet. You made it through the interrogation, my friend.
Thank
You
you.
did great. You did great. We're
Thank
taking
you
off
so
the
much.
critical consumer hat now. Let's talk about the future. I think there's tons that the future is bright, to be a little punny, but let's talk about that a little bit. Chloe, you want to start us off?
Yeah, this is my favorite section.
Yeah.
So what's in your product roadmap for maybe the next year, and then take us to like the 10-year vision?
Okay. So this year we're launching the 6 wavelength one, the Essential Pro, to get that off the ground. In like, when you do like a product roadmap and you have like all these ideas and the development starts, it's like all excited. And then you're like, okay, what's the next product? It's this one. And then you realize how long it is to get that one off. And then you're like, oh, well, of course, the ones, the previous ones, Essential and Pro took that long. It's not like we're just, we have to go through the whole process again. So it's a little bit discouraging when you're like, oh, I want to make my new products now. I have so the Essential Pro. Then I'm looking at another one called the Pro Plus. The Pro Plus it's 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 the one that's environment temperature tested. I want to try to be able to get it into a sauna, like a hot sauna or a jacuzzi, and have the 6 wavelengths and an optimized battery. And then the app will be able to connect with all of them, and you can have multiple devices all connected at once. There's a mask in the product line because, man, everybody's doing a mask, but
Yeah.
I'm not so interested in the beauty side. There is a kind of LED in the LED technology. Everything is about LED technology and accelerates very quickly, LED technology. So there's a new kind of LED that is sort of whispered in the light therapy. And this particular LED is great for a mask. It's a very powerful mask, and that's very, very flexible. So there'll be that. And then I want to do a more of a gadget kind of light therapy device where something that, let's just say, if you imagine your phone could actually be a light therapy device.
That's
That's
interesting.
I would
something
love
that
that.
where you're like, oh, and let's just say that. I don't know. I don't know what I'm allowed to give away and what I'm not allowed to give away. The development team might get pissed. But yeah, if your phone is with you everywhere, your phone should have a light therapy device. Your phone should be able to. So I think that's an exciting one.
I think that's a great idea. We see
That's really
that
cool.
trend a lot, actually. Like we interviewed the founders of Apollo, which is this little like vibrating device that you wear that stimulates your vagus nerve. And something they just did was release a version in their app that can turn your phone into a little vibrating device because it's always with you. And so it's just interesting you say that because there are a lot of wellness companies that are kind of like, how can I take this external device thing
Yeah.
and put it into something people have with them all the time? So I like that
Yes.
idea.
Yeah, because then you're truly like creating some impact. You're appealing to the masses, and that particular part of the phone, the price point can be very good, very competitive price point. So that's really exciting. If you're somehow able to use your phone as the battery,
Yeah,
right?
right. especially with the analogy you gave earlier.
Yeah.
Speaking of innovations, if you had unlimited resources tomorrow, what's a moonshot idea that you would pursue in wellness technology?
That idea.
Limited resources.
Wow. Wow. Unlimited resource. I'd probably be okay. So I'd stick with light therapy, but I guess I would really, if I had limited resource in terms of funding, I think that really where you can make a good step is, and this is also why I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. I don't know. I guess I would be allowed to say it, but I'm allowed to say it. I just say it because I'm running it. But is is kind of pushing for very heavy clinical certification that it'd be massive investment. It would be clinical trials. It'd be clinical trials to where we could then compete against pain medication.
Wow.
So if somebody's told me like you have unlimited resource, go, I would say I'm going against pain medication. I'm going to use the funding, the
Nice.
resources to introduce light therapy as an alternative to pain medication. I would go that route.
I love that.
Hell yeah. That's cool. I like that. Cool. Sounds like you guys got some exciting times ahead. So, all right, as we bring this in for a landing, the lightning lab is our last little section here. Everybody loves it. The goal here is to answer in one sentence, one story, or one word. Sometimes people can. So it's your choice. Up to you. We're not going to dock you if you go a little bit over. So don't be too hard on yourself here. But
One word.
that would be, some people can do it. You'd be surprised. So
Yeah, you'd have to be one
you
of
want to
those
start us off, Chloe?
stoic.
Yeah. What's one health and wellness myth that you would like to bust?
Wellness myth you would like to bust that hasn't been busted already? Sure. I guess it would be like eating insane amounts of protein is the only way to build muscle. Because it's not. At least
Ooh. So
I
how else
see.
can you build muscle? Because protein has, yeah, very good PR team lately.
yeah. Well, I guess I'm talking to the bodybuilders now because
Mm,
and they eat a lot of protein. It's like
yeah.
so I guess when I say insane amounts, I'm I know one buddy of mine and he has 12 eggs every morning. That's just his morning breakfast, 12 eggs.
Wow.
I know another guy that does that cleans 40 eggs, 40 eggs. So the guy that does 40 eggs, he has them raw. And I'm always like, I don't think he like that's, but yeah, I think there's an amount of protein that you need that, and then there's a lot of wastage. So it's more about putting the protein throughout the day and then not so much these, but yeah, that's just off the top of my head, just because I've come from a bodybuilding competition and the stories you hear with some of these athletes. Wow.
Damn, that's crazy. That's scary. All right, next question is, what's a question that you wish you were asked more?
Wish people would ask me more about something I'm really passionate about, which is creating boxing fight nights. I'm actually really good at that.
Ooh.
Like I'm actually like
Okay.
as my side hustle, I wouldn't even call it a side hustle, it's a side passion. I create these events where I make people fight each other like a promoter. And I'm like,
It's awesome.
I'm really good at it.
How did you get into that? Is that from when you were into boxing yourself, or like what makes you so good at that?
Yeah, because I couldn't fight anymore. And I had a large group of people that that are involved in boxing. And I sort of wanted to stay in and keep sort of my biggest passion definitely is still boxing. It's the greatest sport for me. But I guess the way that I wanted to stay in it was to create events where people would, challenge themselves. Because me fighting back then, the value you get from fighting and achieving that, I know some people that have fought in my event that have like they have all their awards in their companies, and then the trophy that they got at my event, that's like right in the middle. It's like they wear it with so much pride. It's something that means a lot to them. I just wanted to, okay, I can't fight, I can't get that feeling. Let me see if I can give it to other people. And it went well. It went really
Wow,
well.
I
that's
love
so
that.
cool.
Who would have guessed? Glad we asked.
Yeah. And so for the very last question, something we do in this podcast is we have a previous guest leave a question for the next guest, and they don't know who it's going to be for. So your question comes from Emily Cunningham. She's the founder of True Moringa. And she wants to know, what's the best piece of advice you've gotten that you actually use?
the best piece of advice that I've gotten is to balance motivation and discipline. And I remember the guy who told it to me. I remember the night. I remember like all the talks of the hustle, the grind, the oh this didn't work. And I remember, John, you have motivation, you have discipline. You have a lot of motivation, you need to get this. I remember thinking of this balance, and I was like, wow, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. And since then, I still am learning it for sure.
How have you used it in your career or life so far?
Because motivation is like it's the energy that, gets you up every day and gets you excited, but discipline is what gets you through the storms. It's,
Nice.
you kind of, as things grow and as things get bigger and bigger and bigger, there's more weight on your shoulders. There's more responsibility. That when a fire happens, it's not just a little fire you put out with your friend. It's a massive fire. It's a huge thing that you have to deal with, and you get better and better and better at it. But when you start doing bigger and bigger things, they happen more often. It's just part of the hustle. It's part of the package. Like if you didn't want to do it, then don't do it. If you don't want the challenge, don't do don't show up, right? So when you have that discipline, you can start going through these storms more often, and you get more resilient. But if your motivation, the fire will burn your motivation, and then you just sit in bed and get grumpy. So that's kind of how I've used it. Really good advice.
Wow. Yeah, that is great advice. I love that. All right, what's a question you want to leave for our next guest? You don't know who they are. They're a health and wellness founder probably, but what's a question you want to ask them?
What's your biggest failure? Yeah. What's your biggest failure that you learned from? What was the biggest failure that you learned from? I like those conversations. Those are good. Like you learn more from failure than you do from progress, right? And I remember giving a talk at an event. It was called Fuck Ups. It was actually the name of the event. It was called Fuck. Because they were like,
Nice.
and you do this presentation and you speak to the community, don't talk about all the success, talk about all the things that went wrong. And I was like, sure, whatever, I'll do that. And I remember it was one of the best conversations I had because everybody around me was like, it was much more, there was a lot more learning that happened that day than me just talking about how wonderful it was. So when you can tell someone, when you get very comfortable with sharing your mess ups, your failures, you'd be so surprised how people can learn from it. And then you're helping that person to not make that mistake.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
What's yours? What's your biggest one and what'd you learn from it?
The biggest mess up, I think, was that there was a business that I was involved in where my ego took over too much. No worries, we'll be fine. I got this. And that business ended up really costing me a lot of money, which I couldn't borrow. I couldn't get a loan or call my dad and be like, yo, help me out. No, it was all on me. And it took me it's like 4 to 5 years to settle it. And I will never forget those years. I will never forget. And it was all down to just me being just a little bit too haughty, right? Just letting my ego take over and think that I knew best. And I promised myself after those 5 years when it was all done, I was like, John, you're a humble monk from now on. Don't you ever do that again. Humility, trust me, at the end of the day is the way forward. I was like, yeah, we're never doing that again. Yeah.
Good. I love that. I'm glad you learned from it. Well, we appreciate you hopping on here.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there
so much.
anywhere you'd want to point people as we kind of wrap up, or any place you want them to go, or anything you want to share?
Yeah, if I guess Instagram, John Graham Fitness is good for direct communication. I talk to wonderful people that the influencers, obviously family. It's something I'm always on comms Instagram. And then the website, of course, www.lumaflex.com, Luma Light, and then flexibility. That's the
Beautiful.
site.
We'll put them both in there. I'm excited to, we'll put them both in the description. And again, thank you so much for hopping on here. That's it for the conversation. Everybody knows that Chloe and I do a little lab results section afterwards, just her and I, to kind of give our thoughts on the conversation. But that's it for our conversation with you. So thank you so much for hopping on. We appreciate it. All right, people, welcome back. This is the lab results section for the Lumaflex episode, where we kind of break down what we really think. So Any thoughts, Chloe?
Yeah, everyone knows I'm a huge fan of red light therapy. I think his device is great, actually. It's super portable, probably the most portable device I've seen. And then just looking at kind of like the engineering specs, they're good. So like the device comes with like a decent amount of power. That's something that's really, really important. I haven't personally used it, but Cody has. So he can probably give some actual user feedback. And then as far as the founder, I thought he was awesome. He interviewed really well. It seems like his head and heart is in the right place.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was an interesting conversation as well. He was pretty open to feedback too. So, and then, yeah, I did. They sent one over. Sometimes people send products and stuff over if they want us to check them out beforehand. It's not paid. It's anything like that. They just send them over if they want us to look at them. So I'm trying this out a couple times this morning. It's kind of cool. It's honestly pretty simple. Like there's just one little button here that you press, you hold it or whatever, it vibrates and then it like pops on and you're off to the races and it's like doing its thing. So kind of interesting. We've also had a FlexBeam on here, and FlexBeam is like a really intense unit, and that is one of the cool things about this one is that it is the super flexible and super like it bends around stuff, and it's So his vision and the way he described how it's different from others, I can personally attest it's more friendly in that way. So it's kind of interesting. So what about do you think they passed the lab test? What do you think? Passed the test? Needs more research? Failed it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think, well, here's the thing with red light therapy is like we discussed in the podcast is like there isn't a ton of like randomized clinical trials out there. But there are a lot of case studies. So I think I think red light therapy, if you want to use it. I think there is like a lot of really good results that people are having. And so I'm like, yeah, it passes the lab results because it meets all the engineering specs to me, like the founder. And I think the red light therapy world needs more research in general.
I agree. And getting together a group of them that can all like invest in research together, I think would be super helpful. For me, I think it needs a little bit more testing on the device itself, like having some research that is like using the actual device. Like they were talking about that fertility research they did where the device is being used. I would like to see that. Would I actually buy this product? I mean, I would actually. I mentioned CrossFit. I'm starting to do that more and I'm sore all over the place. And having something that's more flexible like this I can put on me, I think is something that's interesting. While I do think that there is more research, a lot more research that needs to be done, I don't think personally that every single thing that you use needs to be have 100% clinical evidence or 100% clinically proven or things like that. And when you look at the research, there's tons of research around myopia. That's a huge one. And there is pretty good emerging, especially in animals, data that it can be useful, helping with nerve growth and things like that and like releasing nerve growth factors, and the effects that they have are real. I studied optogenetics when I was in school and how light affects neurons and like brain cells. Those are real things. And so it's based on good science. I just really, 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 really believe that a couple of them need to get together and really do some hardcore clinical research. And just if they want to make more definitive claims, they've got to do more definitive research. I think the research there's more research that needs to be done, but I still would buy the product personally because there is enough research, and the form factor of Lumaflex is different than other ones that we've talked about or that I've seen, and I do appreciate that. What about you? Would you buy it?
Yeah, completely. I would buy it. I've personally had good results with red light therapy in the past, and one of my biggest complaints is the portability of it because I travel a lot, and as you know, or as Cody knows, I usually live out of a carry-on suitcase. So
yes, you do.
Portability is really important for me. So yes, I would definitely buy this and give it a try.
Yeah. I love that. Anything that caught you off guard or anything, lesson that you learned on this one?
Nothing that really caught me off guard. How about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think one of the biggest things that we talked about was actually something that caught me off guard is how open he was to some of the feedback. I mean, there were some glaring things on their website that I kind of brought up, and we didn't really get into an argument necessarily about it. And he just was like, oh, I need to look at that. And it was obvious that he's a busy founder that has a copywriter that helped with their website, and some things slipped through the cracks, and he was like, crap, I need to look at that. And he was very open to that feedback, and we'll have to take a look and see if he's made some of those adjustments. But I thought that he was it kind of took me by surprise. Sometimes we have people on here that just want to argue and go back and forth, and it's just like, okay, we can argue about it, but I have your website up right here. So, so that was interesting. And then I'm interested that there's a company that helps with user reviews, because that's something we see a lot. There are millions of users of Whoop. He has 50,000 users of Lumaflex. Like, I do believe there's a new wave of consumer science that could start to come around where if someone can figure out how to do legitimate user data, or research and grab actual legitimate data from that kind of like out in the world research, not in a lab setting, I really think that would be very interesting and very cool. And I just was kind of thinking about that. And I also think that it could lead to something like a data guild or something where me and you are like, hey, we're in this data guild. We sign up for this data guild and there's 1 billion users that are in this. Here are the devices that I use. If I'm in this data guild, companies can use X, Y, and Z data from my devices, from these specific devices. And it's like, it's almost like a regulatory decentralized body that is helping me as a consumer who is using these devices, like get data back and give data in a safe way to companies to do different types of research and stuff. And I think that would benefit everybody. So
Yeah, I think
that's
so too.
something
I
I
think
was
that'd
kind
be
of
very
thinking about.
powerful.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, that's it. That's a wrap. Any final thoughts that you've got? I mean, I think that's everything. It was a great conversation. I had a
Yeah,
fun
that was
time.
really good. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, me too. Cool. Well, that's a wrap then for this episode of the Decision Lab. We hope lab results gave you some clarity to help you decide on Lumaflex and other red light therapy devices as well. If you love this no BS approach to wellness, which is very unregulated, like we talked about today, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And then if there's a brand you want us to investigate or have a conversation with or try to get their founder on, please drop them in the comments, hit us up on Instagram. We'd love to hear from you guys. Even if you're just saying hi or an expert you want us to interview, please let us know about it. We watch everything. We reply to everything. So let us know. And we'll see you next time on the Decision Lab. Peace.
Bye.